Hello, it's Mr. Mahir here today, and we're going to answer a question that a lot of 20-year-olds think, and that is, what should I consider when moving out of home? Now, obviously there are many factors to consider, and they all have their valid reasons. However, I'll go through the two main things you should be thinking about before you move out. So you want to move out of home. Well, the first thing is that you should smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Now, with that done, the first thing you should actually consider in doing is housing and location. Here are a few questions that you should consider. What suburb are you going to move to? Ideally, to answer this question, it would be a suburb that's close enough to where you work or study. You don't want to move out if it means that you'll spend more time having to travel to and from work or study. So pull out Google Maps and have a look at the potential suburbs. While you're there, what kind of facilities and amenities are close by? Look for key things like shopping centers, hospitals, police stations, fire stations, pretty much anything you think would be important. Once you've picked a suburb, jump onto real estate or Domain and start looking for different properties in that area. What kind of property do you want to live in? If you only need a small place, then maybe a studio apartment will do. If you want a bit more space, then go with a bigger apartment. If you're not a fan of living in a tall building and you want to have your feet a bit more planted to the ground, well then go with a unit. If you're considering moving in with a roommate, then maybe pick a house or a townhouse. The next question would be, what about the safety of the neighborhood? To answer this question, go and travel to where you want to live and look around the neighborhood both during the day and at night. If you get there and you're feeling uncomfortable with either scenario, then maybe you should pick somewhere else to live. You want to feel safe. The last thing you want is to move out of home and always question your level of safety. Now, while you're scoping out the area, how is the route from your house to work? If you're going to drive and you're always in stop-start traffic, maybe consider public transport. But if public transport is not close, then maybe pick another place. Now, those are some of the things that you should be considering when it comes to housing and location. Now, the second thing that you should consider is finances. You don't want to move out only to realize you don't have the income to sustain you. So here are a few things to consider. Rent costs. How much are you going to spend every week? Experts recommend that you should spend less than 30% of your income on rent. So if you're making the average graduate income of $60,000 a year, then 30% comes to $18,000 per year. That means when looking for properties, the rent should not be more than $350 a week. Now you can push this down even further by moving in with someone else and splitting the costs. The next thing to consider would be utilities, such as gas, electricity, water, and internet. Everyone has different habits that affect how much these will cost, and so a good way to figure out how much you'll spend is to ask your parents how much they spend on these utilities and divide that number by the number of people minus 1. Whoa, that was a big calculation. So for example, let's say I'm in a family of 5 people, including myself, and the house electricity bill comes to $1,600 a year. Well, 5 people minus 1 is 4, and so I'd go 1,600 divided by 4, which works out to be $400. Now, the next thing is insurance. Some professions have mandatory insurance. For example, when I was a pharmacist, I had to have pharmacy insurance in the event I accidentally hurt or killed a patient. Other insurances include ambulance insurance, contents insurance, which is in the event that something happens to your belongings at home, and car insurance. These prices fluctuate depending on your specific circumstances, and so you'll need to do your research. The next category that you should consider is medical. For many of you, being quite young, it's not expected for you to have any particular medical conditions. But in the case that you unfortunately do suffer from a condition, you'll need to consider all the finances that are involved with that condition. Now, the next thing would be transport. Cars are not cheap. If you've picked the place you're going to live wisely, then you won't need to use the car all that much, and thus you can rely on public transport, which tends to be a lot cheaper. But if you want the freedom of driving, be sure to consider all of the costs involved, such as car repayments, fuel, servicing, repairs, and depreciation. Now, the last financial consideration is outing. You didn't just move out just to stay indoors all day, every day. So make sure you have a little bit of money so you can go out and see the world around you. But make sure you don't spend too much money in this category. Remember, this tends to be more of a want rather than a need. Now, as mentioned in the previous video, my financial recommendation is that the total calculated expense comes to no more than 80% of your income. If it's more than that, either get a better paying job or see ways to cut down those costs. But there you go, guys. Those are my 2 recommendations on what to consider when moving out of home. And so if you like that video, then please give this a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video.